Welcome to another deep dive. This time we're tackling animal intelligence.
A fascinating topic.
I think our listeners are definitely curious about this one. And we've got some pretty incredible material to delve into.
Yeah, definitely.
We're going to be looking at excerpts from a landmark study by Edward L. Thorndike. Now, he was a real pioneer in the field of animal psychology. Get ready to rethink some of your assumptions about, how our furry, scaled, and feathered friends actually learn.
Yeah, and what I find so fascinating about Thorndike is that he was one of the first to apply really rigorous scientific methods to animal psychology.
Yeah.
I mean, before him, so much of the discussion about animal intelligence was based on anecdotes, those charming little stories,
Right.
which were always fun, but, well, not always the most reliable, if we're honest. So Thorndike brought in the data. Real, measurable evidence. And that really revolutionized how we think about animal learning.
Okay, so let's get a sense of what he actually did. I mean, he designed these, I don't know what to call them, these incredible experiments, almost like escape rooms for cats, dogs, chicks.
Yeah, like puzzle boxes.
Yeah. So picture this. You got a cat. It's in this small wooden box. And there's a latch they have to figure out to get out.
And a tasty fish just outside the door, of course.
Of course.
So Thorndike meticulously tracked how long it took them to escape these boxes. And each box was different, right? Different mechanisms, a button, a loop, a lever, sometimes even a combination of actions. And it was by analyzing, really analyzing the time it took them to escape, that he was able to create these learning curves.
These learning curves.
Yes.
So what did these learning curves reveal about how animals actually think? Do they carefully analyze the situation like we might, reason their way out?
Well, and that's what's so interesting. They didn't, not in the way, I think that we humans might approach a puzzle, What Thorndike found was that the cats often, discover the escape method totally by accident, just random pawing, batting, pushing. And it was only after they sort of stumbled on the solution and got that reward that those successful actions were reinforced.
So it was more trial and error than Sherlock Holmes cat detective.
Exactly. It was all about the reward, kind of stamping in that behavior. And he called this the law of effect. And, it's still a cornerstone of learning theory today.
It's interesting, though, because this does challenge some of those, popular beliefs about, clever animals, right? I mean, think about all the stories we hear, that chimp who supposedly learned sign language or the dog that can predict seizures.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like...
Yeah, Thorndike's work kind of tells us to be careful about, assuming that animals have those same reasoning abilities that we do. He really showed that a lot of what we might see as cleverness can actually be explained by, well, simpler processes, trial and error that drive for a reward, these basic building blocks.
So you're saying those amazing animal feats might actually be, the result of a whole lot of random fumbling around. That seems, I don't know, kind of dismissive of animal intelligence.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Thorndike wasn't saying that animals aren't intelligent. In fact, his research actually highlights how adaptable and resourceful they are. It's more about understanding that their learning process is different, right?
Yeah.
It's often based on these more fundamental building blocks of behavior.
So instead of attributing, human-like reasoning to animals, we should be focusing on those smaller steps, the gradual learning through association.
Precisely. It shifts our focus from speculation about what's going on inside their minds to a more scientific study of their actions,
Yeah.
and how they learn.
One of the things people often point to as evidence of animal intelligence is imitation, right? Oh, look, the monkey's copying what the human's doing.
Right.
Did Thorndike's work address that at all?
It did. And it actually challenged the common beliefs of his time, big time. Back then, people really thought imitation was the way animals learned. But Thorndike designed these experiments specifically to test this. And what he found was, fascinating.
Okay, so tell me. What did these experiments involve, and what did they reveal about, the role of imitation in animal learning?
Well, he put chicks in pens,
Yeah.
With a trained chick who already knew how to escape. And then he let cats observe other cats opening those latches. And he even tried it with dogs. One example that really stands out involved cats in a string loop. You see, one cat had learned to pull the loop with its paw to open the box. But the cat being observed, the one who was supposed to be learning by imitation, well, they had only seen another cat use its teeth to pull the loop.
So even though they saw another cat escape, they weren't just mimicking, the exact behavior.
Right. It's like they were figuring things out in their own way.
Interesting. So this really challenged that whole monkey see, monkey do idea of animal learning then.
It did. It suggested that there's something more going on than just straight up copying.
Hmm.
Like there's this process of like individual learning happening even when they're observing others.
So if they're not simply imitating, then what is going on in their minds? How are they learning?
Well, Thorndike concluded that animals primarily learn through association. Like it's not about complex reasoning the way, we might do it, but more about forming these links, connections between a situation and an action based on what happens after.
Like consequence.
Yeah, exactly. Like pleasure, getting that fish, reinforces the connection. It makes that action more likely to happen the next time they're in that same situation.
Like connecting the dots. You got the situation, the action, and then bam, the reward. And repeat. Makes me think about learning to ride a bike. It's not like you're sitting there pondering the physics of balance. It's more about all those like wobbly attempts, and then that pure joy when you finally glide down the street on two wheels.
Exactly. It's about that repetition, those associations, and, how that positive outcome just strengthens those connections in our brains.
So Thorndike was essentially arguing that that animals are constantly making these associations, like learning from the consequences of their actions.
That's right. And it actually led him to some pretty revolutionary ideas about the nature of intelligence itself. You see, he didn't see human intelligence as this like radical departure from animal minds. He saw it more as an elaboration, like building upon those same basic principles of association and his law of effect.
So we're not as different from those cats in the puzzle boxes as we might think.
Perhaps not. Thorndike even observed monkeys. He was fascinated by their curiosity, their playful exploration. He saw hints of what we might consider higher cognitive abilities, even in those seemingly simple behaviors.
So, like, was he saying monkeys were smarter than, say, the cats or dogs he studied?
Well, he was cautious about making, those kinds of direct comparisons. He acknowledged that monkeys were capable of more complex learning, things like problem solving, even using tools.
Right.
But he argued that even those more complex behaviors could be explained by like an elaboration of those same basic learning principles, just at a more sophisticated level.
So more advanced, but still operating within that same framework of association and reward.
Precisely. And this leads to a pretty powerful idea, right? That intelligence isn't this like mystical quality that just poof appears. But it's a product of evolution. It's this gradual refinement of this core ability to learn and adapt.
That's a pretty humbling thought, isn't it? We like to think we're so special, but maybe we're not as far removed from the rest of the animal kingdom as we'd like to believe.
It definitely challenges our assumptions. But it doesn't, I don't think, diminish our own unique capabilities, right?
Right.
It just helps us see them within this broader context of shared evolutionary history.
It's like he was saying, hey, let's not get too caught up in what separates us. Let's appreciate those incredible abilities we share, that capacity for learning, for adapting, for making sense of the world around us. That's what really connects us, I think.
Beautifully put. And it reminds us that we're all part of this, this intricate web of life, each species with its own unique adaptations and ways of learning, but all driven by this fundamental need to survive and thrive.
All this talk about animal intelligence, it really makes you think about the very nature of learning itself. And one thing that always comes up is that whole debate about nature versus nurture, right?
Ah, yes, the age-old question. How much of our intelligence is determined by our genes and how much by our experiences?
Exactly. Did Thorndike's research shed any light on that debate at all?
While he didn't use those terms specifically, nature versus nurture, his work definitely leaned towards the nurture side of the equation. Remember, he emphasized the role of experience. Those associations form through trial and error, reward, repetition.
So he was saying intelligence isn't just like pre-programmed. You're not born with a set amount. That the environment, those opportunities for learning play a crucial role.
Absolutely. He believed that even, seemingly simple animals have this remarkable capacity to learn and adapt based on their interactions with the world around them.
That's a pretty, optimistic view of intelligence, wouldn't you say?
I think so, yes. I mean, it suggests that we all have the potential to learn and grow regardless of our, starting point.
Speaking of learning and growing, Thorndike's emphasis on that law of effect, that whole idea of rewards driving behavior, it's had a huge impact on how we think about education and training, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Think about those gold stars on a spelling test or the treats we give our dogs for learning a new trick. It's all, rooted in this idea that positive reinforcement encourages those desired behaviors.
It's kind of amazing to think that something as simple as a cat trying to, escape a box could have such profound implications for how we understand learning, even in humans.
It's a testament to the power of a careful observation and scientific inquiry. By studying even, seemingly basic behaviors, we can gain these incredible insights into the workings of the mind, both animal and human.
So it sounds like Thorndike's work wasn't just about understanding animal minds, but about understanding like the very essence of learning itself.
Right. Yeah. And his research has had an impact on fields far beyond just psychology and education,
Oh, like what?
like artificial intelligence. I mean, his emphasis on trial and error learning has been hugely influential in like machine learning. Computers are now being programmed to learn through trial and error, just like Thorndike's cats in those puzzle boxes.
Oh, wow. That's I don't know, I find that kind of mind-blowing.
That's pretty amazing.
It's fascinating how his work just continues to resonate across like so many different fields, even over a century later.
Yeah. It speaks to the enduring power of his ideas. Thorndike really did revolutionize our understanding of learning, and his work continues to shape, our understanding of the mind, of behavior, and even, like we were saying, the development of artificial intelligence.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about how Thorndike viewed animal intelligence, but I'm curious, how has his work been received by other researchers? Like, has everyone just embraced his ideas wholeheartedly?
Well, like any groundbreaking scientific work, Thorndike's research has sparked its fair share of, debate and discussion. While his emphasis on trial and error learning has been really influential, some researchers have argued that it doesn't, fully capture the complexity of animal cognition.
So there are other perspectives on animal intelligence that kind of go beyond Thorndike's framework?
Yes. For instance, some researchers have focused on studying things like problem solving,
Yeah.
and tool use, and even social intelligence in animals. And they argue that these abilities suggest, a level of cognitive complexity that goes beyond just simple association learning.
Yeah, that makes sense. Seems like the field of animal intelligence is constantly evolving with new discoveries that challenge our understanding of what animals are really capable of.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this field so exciting. There's always more to learn, more to discover, and more to appreciate about the incredible diversity and complexity of, the animal world.
So while Thorndike's work laid like a crucial foundation, it's not the final word on the subject.
Oh, definitely not. It's more like, a starting point,
Yeah.
a springboard for further exploration and discovery.
That's a great way to put it. Thorndike really opened up this whole new way of thinking about animal intelligence. And his work continues to inspire researchers to this day. But it's important to remember that the field is dynamic. New research is constantly expanding our understanding of what animals can do and how they think.
I couldn't agree more. It's a reminder that science is a process of ongoing discovery, right? Always pushing the boundaries of our knowledge and challenging our assumptions.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to move on to some of those more recent developments in the field of animal intelligence. What are some of the key areas that researchers are focusing on today, and what are some of the most exciting discoveries that have emerged? One area that's just like exploded in recent years is research on animal tool use. We used to think that was, a uniquely human thing, but now we're discovering all sorts of animals using tools in these like incredibly clever ways.
Yeah, it really is remarkable. Crows, for example. I mean, crows have shown this amazing ability to, like, fashion and use tools to solve problems. They've been observed bending wires into hooks to retrieve food,
Wow.
and even using, like, multiple tools in sequence to achieve a goal.
That's incredible.
It is.
And it's not just crows, right? What about those chimps using sticks to fish for termites?
Yes. That's a classic example of animal tool use. And, researchers have even observed chimps passing down these tool-using traditions to their offspring, which suggests, a form of cultural transmission.
So it's not just instinct,
Yeah,
but like learned behavior that's being shared across generations.
exactly. And that raises some really fascinating questions about, the evolution of culture and intelligence, not just in humans, but in other species as well.
It really makes you, rethink those lines we draw between us and other animals, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And another area where I think those lines are getting blurry is is in research on animal communication. I mean, we're learning that so many animals communicate in ways that are far more complex than we, once thought.
Definitely.
So it's not just simple calls and signals, but something like more nuanced. Are we talking about language here?
Well, the definition of language is, well, it's hotly debated, even among researchers who study, human language. But there's no doubt that some animals communicate in ways that are incredibly sophisticated.
Okay, so what kind of examples are we talking about here?
Take prairie dogs, for instance. They have this complex system of alarm calls that can convey information about the type, size, and even color of a predator. They can even describe the speed and direction of a threat.
So they're basically like painting a picture with their calls.
In a way, yes.
Mm.
And researchers have even found evidence that dolphins use whistles and clicks to refer to specific individuals, almost like names.
Wow. That really challenges that whole idea that that language is this thing that's unique to humans.
It certainly opens up, new possibilities. And it makes you wonder, what other forms of communication might be out there just waiting to be discovered.
It does. All this talk about animal intelligence brings up, I think, a really fundamental question. What does it actually mean to be intelligent?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? There's no single definition of intelligence, right? Like some researchers focus on problem-solving abilities, others on adaptability, and still others on the capacity for abstract thought.
So there's no easy answer. It all depends on who you ask.
Yeah. And it also depends on what species you're talking about, too. I mean, what we consider intelligence in a crow might be totally different from what we consider intelligence in, a dolphin.
So it seems like we need to broaden our definition of intelligence, right? Move beyond that human-centric perspective.
I think so, yes. We need to appreciate the diverse ways that, intelligence manifests itself across the entire animal kingdom.
Yeah. And maybe, just maybe, by studying animal intelligence, we can gain a deeper understanding of our own minds as well.
Right. After all, we're all products of evolution, sharing common ancestry with these amazing creatures.
That's a pretty powerful thought.
It is.
It's interesting to think back to Thorndike's work, especially in light of all these, new discoveries. I mean, he focused on those really fundamental principles of learning, but it seems like he also opened the door to this whole new world of inquiry into animal cognition.
Oh, absolutely. His work really laid the groundwork for so much of the research that's, being done today. He showed us that animals are capable of learning in these really complex and, often surprising ways. And he challenged us to rethink our assumptions about, what animals are truly capable of.
His work has had a profound and lasting impact.
It really has.
And it's clear that, as we continue to explore this fascinating realm of animal intelligence, there are still so many mysteries left to unravel.
There are. And I have a feeling those discoveries are going to continue to challenge our understanding of the world around us and our place within it.
I think that's a great point to wrap things up on. We've covered a lot of ground today, from Thorndike's groundbreaking experiments to the latest discoveries about animal tool use and communication and even culture. We've really explored the incredible diversity and complexity of animal intelligence.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It has.
And I hope it's a reminder that the study of animal minds is an ongoing process, one that holds, the potential to unlock some of the most profound mysteries of life itself.
So as you go about your day, keep those amazing animal minds in mind, observe the creatures around you, ponder their behaviors, and just marvel at their incredible adaptations. Who knows? You might just glean some new insights, discover some new wonders, just by, paying attention to the world around you.
That's a wonderful thought to end on. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep marveling at the incredible diversity and complexity of the natural world.